Question 25, Part B, asks students to justify the use of rehabilitation procedures following a hamstring tear. It's worth 12 marks. I've already included here the areas that we're concentrating on. So we're looking at justify, rehabilitation procedures, and had to be related to hamstring tear. We go and have a look at our syllabus. Actually, I'm going to change that. First thing for this question, if you notice here, it says, this is from the Board of Studies, and this is the examination specifications, that section 2, which looks at the options, the second question is worth 12 marks with an expected length of response of around 3.5 examination writing booklet pages, which is almost 500 words. So students, first of all, need to make sure that they write a fair amount in this answer, because that's what the syllabus or the Board of Studies is specifying that they need to be able to do for a 12-mark question. The number of students who didn't write even close to 2 pages for this answer was disappointing. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. We'll have a look at our syllabus, and what we'll notice is that rehabilitation procedures, progressive mobilisation, graduated exercises, training, and the use of heat and cold. They're the 4 areas that need to be looked at. It even says here in our Learn to justify rehabilitation procedures for a hamstring tear. So that's what our syllabus is telling us. So we've got rehabilitation procedures. Actually, I forgot to give you one thing, is looking at the Board of Studies. For justify means you need to support an argument or a conclusion. So in order to support an argument for the use of rehabilitation procedures, do you think they're important? Yes or no? Relating to a hamstring injury. Rehabilitation procedures must be used following a hamstring tear as it progressively promotes movement in the injury, restoring movement from no or little movements to a state of full recovery. So there we go. There's a little justification explaining to us, or telling us, the importance of why it needs to be there. Must be used, and has even been highlighted. Firstly, progressive mobilisation is needed following a hamstring tear. Goes through and gives some explanation, says what it's all about, and it relates a little bit further down in the hamstring injury. So this occurs to the hamstring injury. So it talks about stretches, gives an example to reinforce what we're trying to say, and supports our answer of what we're looking at, okay? And so the last part here talks about the squats or an attempt to touch the ground, as these both statically stretch the hamstring and effectively aim to progressively mobilise the tear, reinforcing the importance of this aspect of the syllabus. Following on from this phase is graduated exercise, which aims to restore motion, strength and flexibility. It's not only the hamstring but the whole body, which comes into the whole total other areas, because without a scar tissue can form an atrophy, which is the loss of muscle of the bones, or muscles that should be there. Hamstring can begin. The first area of graduated, so he goes through stretching. This is important in rehabilitation. So again, we are justifying. We'll go to our second page. It continues to relate to the hamstring and still talks about it. This increases levels of mobility in the hamstring and effectively assists in the rehabilitation of the injury, and therefore must be included. So there's even more of an evaluation, justifying here, going through the importance of stretching, what it does. It promotes blood flow, gives some examples of static and PNF, but then reinforces his position in terms of justifying. This increases the level of mobility in the hamstring and effectively assists in the rehabilitation of the injury, and therefore must be included. Another aspect of gradual exercise is conditioning, which is the restoration of muscular strength in the hamstring. Goes on to talk about it. For the hamstring, work will therefore exercise with the hamstring increases muscular strength. Talks about isokinetic exercises, which can lead to an overall development in muscular strength and greater hamstring restoring motion and greatly rehabilitation the injury. The last element of graduated exercise is total body fitness. So the 3 areas we look at in the syllabus, stretching, conditioning and total body fitness, is included under graduated exercises. Refers to the overall maintenance of fitness levels in the body. This is essential for when returning to play and therefore must be included in the rehabilitation procedure. Again, justifying. For a hamstring, relates the hamstring to it. We go to the 3rd page. Goes in and explains some of the different types of exercises that could be done for the total body fitness. Relates to the hamstring. Then he goes off, another area of rehabilitation is training, which is our third area of rehabilitation procedure, which improves coordination, skills and strength and is therefore needed as part of rehabilitation. More of a justification here. It must be relevant to the athlete's sport and therefore a hamstring tear must be experienced by a soccer player. Skills such as passing and dribbling should be developed in an environment and when the athlete is ready, must participate in full competitive training sessions before returning to play. So it both works on the mental and the physical aspect of the injury, and therefore, it says here, and physical, and therefore is needed as part of rehabilitation. Lastly, the use of heat and cold is important. Go through and explain some of the RISA techniques and gives an overview of that related to the hamstring. Therefore, must be used exclusively in the first 3 days to reduce pain. So there's more reinforcing taking place. We go to the final page. Exercise to promote movement. By applying heat to the hamstring, elasticity is improved as well as blood flow, while in turn reduces tension and pain experienced by the athlete. The use of rehabilitation procedures are vital in repairing an injury as it will effectively be changed from its painful initial state to a pain-free, freely mobile state. First thing we notice is there's 1, 2, 3, 4 pages being written, well and truly over 500 words. So he's covered that aspect there. We know that all 4 parts, progressive mobilisation, graduated exercise, including these 3, training and use of heat and cold, have all been done in relation to a hamstring tear. They've also been justified. Continually kept saying the importance of it must be included. Therefore, this is important. That's the things that made this answer very, very good. Well set out with some highlighting. The areas of concern, when I went through and did the marking, some concerns I had for this question was, first of all, and I've mentioned it, was the amount of content that was given. It was nowhere near the required amount specified by the Board of Studies. We actually showed the students how much was needed from the Board of Studies prior to the exam, and it was also on Perm Online. People spoke about RISA for the whole answer, and I just don't understand why RISA came in. The number of boys that weren't able to justify, they weren't able to support an argument for the use of rehabilitation procedures, but instead just went through and explained each of the rehabilitation procedures for a hamstring tear. So there's a big difference there. So the justification needed to be very, very clear for the use of rehab procedures. And just it was poorly set out. You saw on the sample answer there that was highlighted, so the areas of the syllabus stood out. We knew exactly where they were. There are parts there that students need to work on. The other one was, and I've already mentioned this a couple of times, is that when you spoke about graduated exercises, you needed to include stretching, conditioning, and total body fitness. The 3 need to be in there to be up around the 12 marks. So if you just went through and explained, you're looking at a 5 or a 6. If you didn't have all areas in there, it's going to impact on the mark as well. If you didn't justify and support an argument for the use of rehabilitation procedures, you wouldn't have got over maybe a 9 or a 10.